It's the middle of the night, and your eyes are open. The house is silent, the room is pitch dark, and you're just awake for no reason at all. You check the clock, it's 2 in the morning. You feel that flicker of worry, and you decide something is wrong with you. Here's the thing, nothing is. For most of human history, waking in the dead of night wasn't a fault to fix. It was the plan. People didn't sleep in one long block the way you're trying to right now. They slept twice. Historians have a name for it: segmented sleep. And once you know it existed, you start seeing it everywhere in the record. The idea is simple. You go to bed not long after dark. You sleep for around 4 hours. This was called your first sleep. Then, sometime after midnight, you wake up. Not with an alarm, not in a panic. You just surface, the way a swimmer comes up for air. And for an hour or so, you lie there in the dark, awake and calm. Then you sink down into your second sleep, and you stay there until the sky starts to lighten. Doctors of the day even had opinions about how to do it properly. Their medical books advised you to sleep your first sleep lying on your right side, then roll onto your left for the second, to help you digest your supper and rest more soundly. That is how ordinary a thing this was. It came with instructions. The historian who pulled this together is a man named Roger Ekirch. He spent years digging through diaries, court records, medical books, poems, and prayers, and he found the same 2 words again and again across centuries and across languages. First sleep and second sleep. In English, in French, in Italian, in Latin. Writers mentioned it in passing the way you might mention breakfast, as if everybody already knew exactly what they meant. Because everybody did. But here's the part that really gets interesting, because it raises the obvious question. What on earth did they do at that hour? The answer is almost everything. This quiet slice of the night, wide awake in the dark, had its own life. People prayed. In fact, the church had a service built right into it, a set of prayers meant for the dead of night. In the monasteries, the monks were already up, filing into cold stone chapels in the pitch dark to sing, night after night, and it is partly their careful records that let us date this whole habit so precisely. Some people just talked. Couples lay in the dark and murmured about the day, about money, about the children asleep beside them. Or they used that time for sex. One French doctor from the period actually recommended it, advising that this was the best time for it, when a body was rested, and in his words, more likely to enjoy it and do it well. And some people simply got up. They stoked the fire, checked on the animals, stepped outside to look at the stars, or crossed the road to sit with a neighbor who was also awake. A whole silent society, quietly moving around in the dark, halfway through the night. Now, to understand why anyone lived like this, you have to picture the one thing we've almost completely erased: real darkness. We don't have it anymore. You've got a phone that lights up, a streetlight leaking through the curtains, a dozen little glowing dots on chargers and plugs and appliances. For a medieval peasant, when the sun went down, the world simply switched off. A candle was a real expense, and a poor family did not burn one just to sit up in the evening. So when night fell, you went to bed, because there was nothing else to do, and nothing you could see to do it by. And if you go to bed at dusk, in the depths of winter, that can mean lying down for 14 hours of darkness. No human being sleeps for 14 hours straight, so the body did the sensible thing. It took the sleep it actually needed in 2 pieces and left a window of quiet in the middle. And this is the grim part most people skip over, because that darkness was not peaceful. It was frightening. The medieval night belonged to whatever you were afraid of. Thieves. Wolves at the edge of the village. And in the mind, worse things. Ghosts. Spirits. The restless dead. All of which people genuinely believed were out there walking after dark. There were no police. If something went wrong in the night, no one was coming. Towns tried to hold the dark back with rules. A bell would ring in the evening for curfew, and the word curfew itself tells you exactly what they were afraid of. It comes from the old French for cover the fire. When the bell rang, you banked or smothered your hearth because a single stray ember in a town built of timber and thatch while everyone slept could burn the whole street to the ground by morning. The night was a thing to be survived, shut out, and waded through. And that hour awake in the middle of it was often spent just lying there, listening to a very dark, very silent world. So for a long time, you could dismiss all of this as old writing, people being poetic or exaggerating, until a scientist decided to actually test it. In the early 1990s, a researcher named Thomas Ware ran what is now a famous experiment. He took a group of ordinary people and, for a month, gave them 14 hours of darkness every night, the same long nights a person would have faced before electric light. At first, they slept in one long catch-up block, but after a few weeks, something remarkable happened. Their sleep split in two. They would sleep for a few hours, wake up for 1 or 2 hours of calm, quiet rest, and then sleep again. Without being told to, without ever having read a single word about the Middle Ages, modern people fell straight back into a first sleep and a second sleep. The old pattern wasn't a quirk of history. It was still in there, waiting for the dark to come back. Now, there's one honest complication here, and it matters. Not every historian believes this was how all of humanity always slept. Ekirch's evidence comes mostly from Europe, and Europe has long, hard winters and long, dark nights. Other researchers have studied people living today without electricity in places like Tanzania and Bolivia, close to the equator, and found that many of them sleep in a single stretch, much like we do. So the honest way to put it is this. Segmented sleep was clearly common across much of Europe for centuries, so common that nobody thought it needed explaining. But whether it's the one true natural way the human body is built to sleep, or simply what happens when you hand that body a very long night and no light at all, is a question people are still arguing about. And that argument is really a clue to what happened next, because something did come along and switch the lights on. First, it was better artificial light. Brighter lamps in the cities, streets that stayed lit, coffee houses that stayed open half the night. The dark stopped being a locked door and turned into somewhere you could actually do things. Then came the clock and the factory and a powerful new idea that time was money and sleep was a block you should get through as efficiently as possible in one go so you could get back to work. And so the waking hour in the middle of the night went from normal to a nuisance to a problem with a name. We started calling it insomnia. The thing your ancestors did every single night, without a second thought, we now lie awake dreading and sometimes take a pill to shut off. So here's the full picture. For most of human history, a night's sleep was not one solid wall of unconsciousness. It was two softer halves with a strange, calm, wide-awake island in between. An hour that belonged to prayer and talk and love and fear and the small sound of a fire settling in the dark. We didn't lose that hour because we grew out of it. We lit it up, scheduled it away, and slowly taught ourselves to be afraid of it. So the next time you wake at 2 in the morning, and the house is silent, and everything in you insists that something is wrong, try this instead. Nothing is wrong. Somewhere back down the line, nearly everyone who ever lived did exactly this. They lay awake in the dark halfway through the night and thought it was the most ordinary thing in the world. You're not broken. You're just keeping a very old appointment. Now close your eyes. You've got a second sleep to get to. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.